This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock, joined by John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Good to see you, my friend, on a Monday.
Back on our schedule.
Happy post-Easter to you. Easter Monday, I guess. It's fair enough to say.
I guess it's Easter Monday, the day after Easter Fools, as people tended to call it yesterday.
All right, so I got to understand why you're writing about sports in your political columns.
Yes.
On a Sunday in the Democrat-Gazette. You're writing about the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame, which they are not going to enter you into that Hall of Fame for your Twitter feed, despite you writing about them on Sundays. Was this the angle you're going after?
Now, Roby, that's incredibly cynical and somewhat insulting and probably deserved.
Probably pretty accurate.
But no, I will tell you briefly how it came to pass.
Okay.
And it was a political story that happened to sideswipe sports. You know, I have railed, as many have, for years against the General Improvement Fund, the legislators taking equal shares of surplus funds, and then they just get to pass it out without any accounting, without any pre-audit, just as by their whims. Is now discontinued. It's now been declared unconstitutional in the way it's done, and is now also at the center of
a lot of controversy.
A criminal investigation,
yes,
in which indictments are being returned. But one year I was looking at it, and I was at the end of the session. If you know, back in the day when it was blowing and going, at the end of it, there'd just be this laundry list of authorized projects that before they started routing it through these planning development districts. And North Little Rock legislators were given $100,000 to the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame. Not for capital improvement, just for their money, to bail them out or augment their. And I thought, come on, really? And this is just a classic example of legislators using public money for dubious purposes without any accountability. And I said, this is a 501c3. It has a big banquet, honors the state's sports heroes, puts them in this Hall of Fame. They ought to be able to take care of it themselves. I even proposed that some legislator give me $100,000 and I'd start a journalist Hall of Fame, and I would be the executive director, and I would put on a dinner, and I would also induct myself in the first class. And I had one poor misguided soul, legislator, the next day take me seriously.
He took you up on it.
If you'll get your 501c set up, 501c3, we'll do that. So, but in the course of it, people began to talk to me about the Hall of Fame, and over the years I have made references to African-American standouts in Arkansas sports history who are not in, and some questionable, well-connected insiders, white folks, are in.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a year when somebody absconded with some money, and I have made references to that over the years. So that's how it came to be that I was like the leading critic of the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame. I didn't set out to do it, it just happened. So they're actually making improvements. They're inducting 4 standout excellent choices, 3 of them overdue this weekend. And the director sent me an email, attached the list of inductees, and wanted me to come by and visit, and I did, and I think it made, people have responded to it as a column. So, you know, I had an editor tell me once, surprise your readers sometimes. Just come in with something that's, you know, get off of Trump today and get on something that might be different. That kind of, and it's an old columnist thing, and to do something different from time to time. But it seems to have been well received. You're asking me about it here on the famous weekly digital.
That's right. So speaking of Trump and doing something different,
yeah.
I sat down with Jan Morgan last week.
Yes,
I noticed you got a column out of that as well.
Was she seated right here?
She was seated right there where you were seated, probably using the same microphone right there. If you want to be that close,
she didn't know that
to her right there.
Yes.
And so your takeaways from that interview with Jan Morgan were. And I'll mind you, we do have a time limit, even though we don't have a time limit. Hit the highlights.
Did I go on too much about the Sports Hall of Fame?
I just know you could talk for an hour about Jan Morgan.
Let me synopsize, and this will be very offensive to the great majority of our listeners, since we're in Arkansas. But conservatism is easy to talk about. It's easier, at least around here for sure, than liberal thought. I find liberal explanations of issues require more nuance, that you can really fire people up with a conservative message easily. And she does it, and she sounds very good. She's trained in television. She told you about her background in television. She speaks very well, and she can have you like thinking, well, yeah, unless you understand some of the facts or nuance behind it. So I had both read the Democrat-Gazette. It was her media tour,
Yes.
and I had read that version, but then I got to watch your fine interview, which I thought, I don't want to blow too much smoke at you, but the first few minutes where you're just saying, like, who are you?
Yeah.
Your kids, your marriage, where you work.
I didn't know any of that stuff about her.
People didn't know, and that was good. But, you know, she said, why don't you ask Asa Hutchinson about these specifics about his budget? Well,
we've done that a lot over
You've
the
done
years.
it, and he also presents a specific budget, you know, every year, big books. Also,
Well, I can remember back in 2014 in the campaign when he rolled out his tax cut plan for those making between 21 and 75,000, and we spent hours poring over the numbers on that to understand it fully.
And then she's going to not only cut spending, she's going to cut all taxes, including property taxes. And I'm sitting at home watching your interview, and I'm thinking, it's local. It's in the Constitution. It's local taxation. Millage rates set by the people. You'd have to champion a constitutional amendment as governor to affect any change. Then when she finally came up with a specific, there was a legislative consulting contract on the tax issue, and they didn't take the low bid; they took a high bid. I'm quite sure, practically, Governor Hutchinson had some input into that selection, but that's a legislative expenditure, not a governor's budget expenditure, and the legislature is independent, co-equal independent branch of government. I just thought when you broke down, not literally broke down, just look beyond the thin veneer of everything she said, it made no sense.
Yeah.
And also, we're going to save all this money. Forthwith, 285,000 people lose health insurance because we're going to do it with Medicaid. But really, you didn't have to have a higher matching rate for many of them. UAMS needs to have its budget replenished because they reap a lot of benefits from having insured care rather than indigent care. People are going to lose health insurance in the Obamacare exchange. We're going to run up premiums. Rural hospitals will be newly in jeopardy. I just took a little column and I said, here, I call it the Jan Morgan Basic Lack of Understanding.
That's not how that works.
Tour.
This was the title of your column.
What?
That's not how that works.
Oh, yeah. It was the Jan Morgan Basic Lack of Understanding Tour is what I called it. And, got some good response to that too. Also got some angry response.
Sure. You should get both.
Yeah.
And I've seen about a bunch of that on my Facebook page too. I've gotten a little bit of everything, which tells me it was probably pretty much down the middle and fairly done. So.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, you do a good job with those things. I hate to say it, but you do.
Last question.
Sometimes your interviews of me, I leave a lot to be desired because they don't showcase some of my talents. But just
We've
kidding.
hit your Twitter feed and sports and political acumen and everything today.
No
last question about Jan Morgan here. If I can finagle us a trip to her shooting range, would you go with me?
Well, I don't think so.
No?
No, I still want you to take some pictures or something. I don't know. First of all, I'm not sure how. In order to get in that facility, I can prove to her that I'm not Muslim. How is she going to know my religion? Why do I have to tell the religion? And if I might go over there and say, hey, before you let me in, I kind of support some of these Muslim principles and see what happens.
Yeah.
So,
she knows about your Church of Christ roots, I'm sure, so
well,
you'd probably
yeah.
be pretty covered on that. So
Okay.
let's take a commercial
All right.
break,
Yeah.
and we're going to come back and talk about the 2nd Congressional District. There's a big debate coming up on Wednesday night between the Democrats. John Brummett and I will talk about it right after this.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.
I did.
Welcome back to Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Bright, joined by John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. All right, big debate coming up on Wednesday night.
Right here.
And this, as a matter of fact, right where we're sitting right now, there'll be some podia back here.
Very good.
And
There'll be a small studio audience.
there
right
will
here.
be of some supporters of the
Right.
folks, and then there'll be some questioners over here, including me. The 4 Democrats looking to take out French Hill in Congressional District 2 will all be here. Gwen Combs, Jonathan Dunkley, Paul Spencer, and Clark Tucker. Tell me what expectations are for the debate in terms of a preview. What are you going to be looking for?
I'm looking for, mostly what I'm looking for is all about Clark Tucker. And the other 3 candidates will say, well, yeah, of course, because of some of the things I've written laudatory about him. But I mean, to this extent, we know, it is, or at least it's been written in the New York Times, which has gotten a few things right over the years, that the National Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee aggressively recruited him to run after Spencer Combs, not necessarily the
Dunkley,
4th candidate.
Right.
They recruited him to run. So I'm looking, he is both advantaged by that, but in a debate, the other 3, I'm looking to see if they go after him as the insider. This is not the era of the insider. And one thing we're learning in a lot of the party primaries around the country, and in special primaries and elections, is that it's not just incumbents who are who suffer in this anti-insider. It's favored insider candidates. So I look for those folks to go after him, and I look to see how he deflects it. He's basic, and then I'm looking for how that manifests itself on specific issues. I suspect health care is going to come up. It's a major campaign plank for all of them. I know 2 of the others, and I haven't yet spoken with
Jonathan Dunkley.
Yeah, Dunkley.
I'm going to help you with that.
I don't know why. I mean, and I look forward to.
He got in late. You hadn't had a chance to meet him.
He came in at the last, and I can't say for sure. I know that Combs and Spencer are Medicare for All single-payer advocates. They bring this progressive passion to the campaign in a progressive, passionate time, perhaps, for the Democrats. Tucker, meantime, is the establishment candidate who may have to fend off criticism over that. But he also, as the establishment candidate, he has kind of, so far, been signaling a finesse campaign for the general election. You asked him right here the day he announced about health care, and he didn't say Medicare for all, he didn't say single payer. He said there are things we can do to try to fix Obamacare. I think he's alone in that position. It's the other 3 and their demonstrated liberal passion against the establishment favored candidate, Tucker, who may be trying to finesse issues for the general election, a sort of a standard approach. That's the dynamic I look for. Mm-hmm. And it'll depend on whether you and others ask the right question. But I've
had a lot of practice.
I know.
Every Monday with you, I get a good...
I have no doubt that it will be interesting. And I think, don't you think that's a dynamic?
I do, and I think that how they message and position themselves for the primary is going to be
it could
the
be
thing to watch. And like you said, do they go after Clark because he is the established or the perceived establishment candidate? This is still a wide open race, I really feel like, at this point in time.
Well, it either is or it isn't. Forgive me for that, but there are those who say, oh, come on. Tucker's the guy, the word is out. Tucker is a threat to win a 4-person race without a runoff. There are people who say that. Others who say, this ain't the time for the insiders, for an insider. These other folks that bring some passion. Gwen Combs, who's an organizer of the Women's March. Spencer, who's got a long history of advancing progressive causes. And Dunkley, I'm sure, also. See, I got it.
You're improving by the minute, John, and people can see that.
So it could be even more wide open than we know. But tomorrow night, with what, a couple months to go, this is the first time they're all 4 together.
Yeah.
It's available by streaming on all your .com
Be
sites,
everywhere. Yep.
Not on your regular TV station, but
Right.
And we'll see does one of the three non-Tucker candidates distinguish himself or herself? Which of them, if any, just gets off this theme of French Hill is terrible and we need change, and engage Tucker? Maybe go after him.
That's
what
first
I'm
time they're
looking
all
for.
together. That's what's the fascinating part to me. It'd be the first time we get to see them, so they're going to have to figure themselves out a little bit and how everybody positions in this race. It'll
Well,
be interesting.
just as Jan Morgan, my commentary about her, I said the conservatism is easy to espouse. If you've got firm, progressive, liberal notions like Spencer Combs, those are easier than Tucker's job, which is to sort of be more finessing.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see whether he can do that or if he does it. It's just, you know, it would normally be this early in a Democratic primary in a Republican district. That is a big deal. Yeah. No, I'm going to tune into this.
We got news.
But
There'll be news this week.
This is important and interesting.
All right, he's John Brummett with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Always good to be with you.
You betcha.
Great to see you.
All right.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. That's all for today's program. I'm Roby Brock. We'll see you next time.